Questions being raised in the case of a man charged with murder for a crash that killed his girlfriend and her 5-year-old daughter last year.
They come after Prince William's police chief ruled the investigating officer had violated department policy. Northern Virginia Bureau Chief Julie Carey spoke to the driver's defense attorney about why he thinks the finding casts doubt on the case.
Mustafa Al-Jaziri has been behind bars for almost a year now, accused of intentionally driving his car into oncoming traffic, a crash that killed Dorothy Fontaine and her 5-year-old daughter, Empress. Initially charged with manslaughter, the charges were later upgraded to second-degree murder. Al-Jaziri's family insists the crash was an accident. The defendant's brothers filed an internal affairs complaint with the Prince William County Police, alleging the investigating officer, quote, falsified a portion of his police report to say that the couple was arguing before the crash. Al-Jaziri's brother provided a taped version of a phone conversation that contradicted portions of the written police report. Last month, the Al-Jaziri family received this brief letter from Prince William Police Chief Peter Newsham reading, "The investigation revealed that Master Police Officer Drum violated department policy, therefore appropriate corrective action has been taken." Al-Jaziri hired a new defense attorney, Blake Weiner, who tells me he specializes in police misconduct cases.
The police report talks about my client saying, "I know what happened." He didn't say that. The police report also says that they were arguing in the car. He didn't say that. These are not only these material facts and material misrepresentations, they're the foundation of the government's case.
Weiner says without the incriminating statement, there's no proof Al-Jaziri crashed the car intentionally. Police will not disclose specifically what led to the finding that the investigating officer violated department policy. In a statement, a spokesman writes, "The community can be rest assured the very minor administrative errors that were uncovered and addressed will not have a negative impact on the double murder charges the accused is facing in the deaths of a mother and her 5-year-old daughter." And the Commonwealth's attorney also telling me the policy violation will not impact the case, writing, "The letter has no impact on our case or the charges we brought. We were aware of the mistake that the officer made in his report and had already provided that information to the defense." Court documents filed by prosecutors say there is other evidence supporting the charges, including dash cam video from the vehicle, but there's no audio on the recording.
They claim they don't have audio of the dash camera, but here they are telling the public they were arguing. So if they don't have audio, and my client didn't say they're arguing despite the police report saying so, what's their basis? We don't know.
Weiner says his next step as the newest defense attorney on this case will be to seek bond for his client. The trial now set for December in Prince William County.
All right, so this is Julie Carey with NBC4. And Julie Carey tells you that the police department is talking about that we submitted an audio of the conversation between Mustafa and the investigator. So what is Julie Carey talking about? What is the police department talking about? What happened since we submitted the audio that this investigator falsified Mustafa's statement on the police report? Now, I want to, before we talk about what went on behind closed doors in the police department and what is the outcome of internal affairs looking into investigator Robert Drum falsifying Mustafa's statement, because according to this reporting, the police department is not disclosing the outcome of their investigation. And to this day, they won't tell this community what is the outcome of their investigation. Now, before we dive into what is going on in the Mustafa Al-Jaziri case, I want to thank Casey. I want to thank Farah. I want to thank Becky. I want to thank the mother of Mustafa Al-Jaziri. I want to thank everybody that's here joining us on TikTok. And we have everybody on the screen. This is beautiful.
Just me.
Casey, hello, hello. How are you? So we're playing around with the system. I figured out how to bring everybody into YouTube, into the podcast. And this is a beautiful feature. Now I can, they don't have to physically be here. They can just join the TikTok and I can have them on the podcast. This is beautiful. It took a minute for me to figure that out, but I figured it out. Casey, thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome.
Now, anybody that
You'll
wants
always
to,
be here.
thank you, ma'am. Anybody that wants to be here, send me a request. I'll bring you up. We'll have a conversation. Now, the format that I want to organize in this podcast, I'll start with everybody. Thank everybody for being here. We'll introduce what we're going to talk on the what we're going to be talking about on the podcast, and then I'll ask everybody to mute throughout the podcast. I'm going to be introducing documents, introducing police body cams, exhibits that are hidden away from the community. This file is sealed by Commonwealth Amy Ashworth. Amy Ashworth sealed off the whole entire file. She went to Judge Carol Weimer and sealed off the file. You can know what that means. You can no longer FOIA or request anything into Mustafa's file. You can't FOIA request the documents. You can't FOIA request the body cams. You can't even FOIA request the dash camera that's in Mustafa's vehicle. And you're left with a situation that all you can do as the community is take the word of the Commonwealth attorney. Now, here's the problem. We just watched Julie Carey talk about the foundation of the case is falsified. That this investigator, this is on NBC4, she's telling the community that we received a letter from Internal Affairs signed by the Chief of Police, Peter Newsham, that the investigator violated department policy. But here's the problem. They won't tell you what he violated. Now, I have the original police reports, and in the original police report, this investigator, let me see if I can pull up the Casey, I'm going to go ahead and unplug TikTok for a little bit so I can play the exhibits, and then I'll come back to you, and then we'll have a conversation. And if anybody wants to come up throughout the podcast, send me a request.
Hello, everybody.
Oh my, Shelly, I love
Hi,
you, man.
Shelley.
I am
Hi,
so
my
happy
people.
that you're here.
Me
Hey,
too.
hot
figured this
off
out.
the press. You want to hear something? Hot off the press.
Go
hot
ahead.
off the press.
Go ahead.
I hear Chad Mason has been demoted. He is now back an officer.
Chad Mason is demoted off. Do they tell you what happened?
No. But
Okay.
through the birdie, I hear he's an officer now. He's no longer a sergeant or a investigator.
For this community that don't know who Chad Mason is or
He's a
new
piece of
to, he is absolutely a piece of shit. Yes, ma'am, he is. Chad Mason is the investigator that tampered with Mustafa's dash camera. Shelly, you were there in the motion to dismiss when Chad
When he
Mason
admitted that he violated policies? Absolutely, I was there. October 31st? Yes, I was.
Chad Mason says he plugged in the SD card into his laptop before sending the SD card to evidence. There's a chain of command how they handled evidence. He plugged into his this dash camera into his laptop, and now we're looking at a laptop. We're looking at a dash camera that has no audio, and a dash camera that's cut before impact. The dash camera stops before impact. I've never seen a dash camera that cuts off before impact. And you're looking at a dash camera that has 17 frames missing from the camera facing inward. The camera facing, this is one dash camera. It's a Rexon dash camera. It has a camera facing outward and a camera facing inward. Now, you have the camera facing inward cuts off while the camera facing outward continues rolling. So 17 frames are missing from the camera facing inward before the camera cuts off before impact. And they're talking about Mustafa's facial expression. Now, this is important. This is crucial because you're looking at Mustafa's facial expression, but there are 17 frames missing from the camera facing inward from Mustafa's facial expression. Now, when we look at it, even with the cut version, Mustafa is reacting to the vehicle accident. This is who Chad Mason is. And he's demoted. We're finding out that. Shelly, thank you for letting us know. Hopefully, it's not just demoted. The more evidence that comes out, we're going to get to the bottom of what this police department is doing, what these officers are doing in Mustafa Al-Jazari case. And hopefully we have Chad Mason behind bars in federal prison for tampering with the case of Mustafa Al-Jazari. Shelly, I want to talk about I have the supplement report from Robert Drum. The supplement report, when anytime you have an officer that falsify a police report, they put in a supplement report. A supplement report is correcting the original report. Now, in Mustafa's case, the foundation of the Mustafa Al-Jazari case has been falsified. What am I talking about? This police department, and specifically investigator Robert Drum, is talking about that Mustafa told him that he was arguing with his girlfriend inside the vehicle. Now, Mustafa never said that, but you find that in the police report. Investigator Robert Drum wrote in the police report that Mustafa stated he was arguing with his girlfriend inside the vehicle. Now, usually it's your word against a police officer. And then you hope that the police officer has a body cam when he's talking to Mustafa, and you can always go to the recording, the police body cam. Now, with the help of certain individuals in the police department, I managed to gain access to evidence.com. Evidence.com is a secured portal, a secured website where the police department keeps all their files, the police body cams, the documents, any sensitive file. Now, Commonwealth Amy Ashworth sealed off Mustafa's file, so you can't normally put in a FOIA because they're not going to give it to you. They're going to deny you the FOIA. But I've managed to gain access into the system. I've gotten all their files, not only Mustafa's file. I've got other sensitive files that the police department engaged in misconduct. Now, when you log into evidence.com, when you access Mustafa Al-Jazari file, you find out that the investigator, there is no body cam for Robert Drum between Mustafa and the investigator. But yet in their police reports, they say there is a body cam. It's not there. None of Mustafa's attorneys finds it. That body cam does not exist. Now, what that means is they've deleted that body cam. Well, unfortunately for the police department, unfortunately for investigator Robert Drum, Mustafa's brother, Muhammad, had recorded that phone call conversation and since provided it to Internal Affairs and made a complaint against investigator Robert Drum that this investigator falsified the police reports. Mustafa never stated he was arguing inside the vehicle with his girlfriend. This investigator simply falsified the police report. Now, I want to pull up the police report, and let's pull up the police report where investigator Robert Drum wrote in his police report that Mustafa stated he was arguing inside the vehicle. See if I can find it. And the problem here that usually when you say the investigator falsified the police report, it's your word against the police officer. In this case, it's not our word against the police officer. We have the recording that we can fall back on. Let's see if I can go to it.
Over on the YouTube side.
Yeah, so we're
A little bit, but I wanted to stop in real quick and just say hi to everybody.
Shelly, I love you, ma'am. Thank you. Yes.
Off the press.
Yes, ma'am. I'm so happy that he got demoted. Thank you. I love you, ma'am, and I'll talk to you. I'll see you on the YouTube side.
Steven, sir.
All right, so I'm going to read it, and then I'll put the report on the screen. All right, so this police report is written by Robert Drum after he talked to Mustafa over the phone. 2 days after Mustafa was released from the hospital, Mustafa was helicoptered to the hospital. Mustafa woke up from a coma. Mustafa was released from the hospital. We take Mustafa home. 2 days later, investigator Robert Drum talks to Mustafa on the phone. Now, Mohammed happened to record the phone call between investigator Robert Drum and Mustafa. Now, in the police reports, Robert Drum wrote, Mustafa stated when he found out, he decided to just leave, and the argument in the vehicle was about Mustafa trying to leave and Dorothy was apologizing, but he forgave her. Mustafa stated he was really upset at the time, but he didn't want to leave. So when you read this, you have a whole entire paragraph, and Robert Drum wrote, Mustafa stated when he found out, he decided to just leave, and the argument in the vehicle, Robert Drum is telling us that Mustafa stated that there was an argument in the vehicle. Let me plug that in so that way you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. There we go. And I'll post this on YouTube under Not Another Boring Podcast so you can read it, so that the community is tracking what is happening in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. So Robert Drum says, Mustafa stated that there was an argument in the vehicle. That's not true. Now, we're going to listen to the audio because this investigator is claiming that he can't hear the audio. That's interesting. Hold on. Wait a minute. What is going on here? We take an audio between Mustafa and the investigator, and we tell Internal Affairs that Mustafa never said what this investigator is claiming. Internal Affairs takes the audio to Robert Drum, the same investigator that falsified the police report, and then he writes in a supplement report, and he says, I can't hear the audio. How convenient. How convenient. The investigator that falsified the police report, in his supplement report, which is the supplement report that you correct the original falsified report, is now talking about that he can't hear the audio. The question here is Internal Affairs covering up for this police officer? Are they helping him falsify Mustafa's case? Absolutely. Because what's happening here, every time Mustafa goes to a bond hearing, the prosecutor repeats what the investigator put in the original report. What am I talking about? Let's listen to Prosecutor Sarah Sami and what she says in court during Mustafa's bond hearing. Now, it's been 2.5 years. Mustafa had not had court. The prosecutor refused to take him to court. refused to put his evidence on the record, and refused to take Mustafa to court. So he sits in a county jail without trial for over 2.5 years. And every time he goes for a bond motion, the prosecutor repeats the falsified statement of the police officer because he never corrected the initial reports. Internal Affairs is helping this investigator continue to lie about Mustafa and is helping the prosecutor lie about Mustafa because, according to the prosecutor, she's not lying. She's not lying about Mustafa if she's simply repeating what the investigator said. The Internal Affairs never corrected. Let's listen to what Prosecutor Sarah Sammy says in court. All right, so if you go to YouTube under Not Another Boring Podcast, I've got a playlist. I've got a playlist of all Mustafa's body cams, the body cams that are sealed by the county. I've leaked them on the internet, and I made a playlist on YouTube. It's called Police Body Cam. So if you type Not Another Boring Podcast on YouTube, you'll find this playlist with all the body cams. And in one of the body cams is an audio of the prosecutor where the prosecutor repeats the police report that we just read, that Robert Drum said Mustafa told him that he was arguing inside the vehicle. So if you go to timestamp, let's see. This is timestamp 34 and 16 seconds. All right, 34 and 16 seconds. Let's listen to prosecuting the judge in court.
Called the defendant in the day following this crash. You know, Mr. Stevens insists that this is nothing but an accident. I would contend that this is nothing like an accident. Defendant indicates that he corroborates that there had been some sort of argument between him and the deceased victim. In regards to the crash, he says that something just happened. And then later says, I was driving straight as she was crying because something about she wanted to go to the graveyard. She didn't have a driver's license and her car wasn't working. Your Honor, I can tell the court to defend vehicle.
Prosecutor Sarah Sammy says Mustafa told investigator Robert Drum that he was arguing with Dorothy inside the vehicle. Let's listen to Prosecutor Sarah Sammy one more time before we go into the police report. Now, this is crucial. What Prosecutor Sarah Sammy is doing in court, she's only reading off the police reports that's never been corrected by Internal Affairs. Internal Affairs gave the audio when we made a complaint about this investigator that he falsified Mustafa's statements and that Mustafa never said he was arguing inside the car. Internal Affairs took the audio and gave it to the same investigator that falsified the police report. And this investigator conveniently said, I can't hear the audio. Now, and the police report never was corrected. There is a supplement report, But the supplement report says that this investigator can't hear the audio. How convenient. The Internal Affairs gives the audio to the same investigator that falsified the police report. And then you have a situation here, because the police report was never corrected, the prosecutor, Sarah Sammy, can sit in court and repeat the statement that are falsified. Let's hear prosecutor Sarah Sammy one more time what she tells the judge.
Investigator Drum called the defendant in the day following this crash. You know, Mr. Stevens insists that this is nothing but an accident. I would contend that this was nothing like an accident. Defendant indicates that he corroborates that there had been some sort of argument between him and the deceased victim. In regards to the crash, he claims that something just happened. And then later says, I was driving straight as she was timed because something about she wanted to go to the graveyard. She didn't have a driver's license and her car wasn't working. Your Honor, I can tell the court the defendant's vehicle was inspected thoroughly by a master technician from the investigation every 10th of a second, not a rapid deceleration, and only dropping 1 to 2 miles per hour per 10th of a second, which is consistent with the crash scene and consistent with the dash camera that the court viewed. Investigator Drum called the defendant in the day following this crash. You know, Mr. Stevens insists that this is nothing but an accident. I would contend that this was nothing like an accident. Defendant indicates that he corroborates that there had been some sort of argument between him and the deceased victim. In regards to the crash, he claims that something just happened. And then later says, I was driving straight as she was timed because something about she wanted to go to the graveyard. She didn't have a driver's license and her car wasn't working. Your Honor, I can tell the court the defendant's vehicle was inspected thoroughly by a master technician from the St. County Police Department. A thorough inspection indicating that there was nothing wrong with the vehicle, nothing that could cause the vehicle to go left into un.
Okay. So prosecutor Sarah Sammy tells the judge that there is a conversation between investigator Robert Drum and Mustafa told the investigator that he was arguing with his girlfriend inside the vehicle. And she's repeating the police report. She's reading directly from the police report that Robert Drum originally wrote that was never corrected. Now, Julie Carey reported on that the police department sent us a letter that the police department, the Internal Affairs, signed by the chief of police, Peter Newsham, admit that the officer violated department policy, but they don't update you on what they did to whether they corrected it, whether they corrected this investigator original report. They won't update you. They just tell you that the police department sent a letter that this investigator found that he violated department policy. Let's listen to what Julie Carey is talking about.
For tonight, there are new questions being raised in the case of a man charged with murder for a crash that killed his girlfriend and her 5-year-old daughter last year.
They come after Prince William's police chief ruled the investigating officer had violated department policy. Northern Virginia Bureau Chief Julie Carey spoke to the driver's defense attorney about why he thinks the finding casts doubt on the case.
Mustafa Al-Jazeera has been behind bars for almost a year now, accused of intentionally driving his car into oncoming traffic, a crash that killed Dorothy Fontaine and her 5-year-old daughter, Empress. Initially charged with manslaughter, the charges were later upgraded to second-degree murder. Al-Jazeera's family insists the crash was an accident. The defendant's brothers filed an internal affairs complaint with the Prince William County Police, alleging the investigating officer, quote, falsified a portion of his police report to say that the couple was arguing before the crash. Al-Jazeera's brother provided a taped version of a phone conversation that contradicted portions of the written police report. Last month, the Al-Jazeera family received this brief letter from Prince William Police Chief Peter Newsham reading, "The investigation revealed that Master Police Officer Drum violated department policy, therefore appropriate corrective action has been taken." Al-Jazeera hired a new defense attorney, Blake Weiner, who tells me he specializes in police misconduct cases.
The police report talks about my client saying, I know what happened. He didn't say that. The police report also says that they were arguing in the car. He didn't say that. These are not only these material facts and material misrepresentations, they're the foundation of the government's case.
Weiner says without the incriminating statement, there's no proof Al-Jazeera crashed the car intentionally. Police will not disclose specifically what led to the finding that the investigating officer violated department policy. In a statement,
now here is why the police department will not disclose what their finding is when we gave them the recording between Mustafa and the investigator and told them that this investigator falsified the police report. They won't disclose it because they took the audio of the conversation. They gave it to the same investigator that falsified the police report, had him write another report. And this investigator said in the supplement report, I couldn't hear the audio. How convenient. How convenient that the Internal Affairs would give the audio to the same investigator that falsified the police report. Now, let's go into the supplement report. And this is what they're hiding from this community. By the way, this is a sealed document. Remember, Commonwealth Amy Ashworth sealed off the whole file. You can't put in a request, a FOIA request, to look at anything into this case. Amy Ashworth put a seal on this case. Your FOIA is going to be rejected. Unfortunately for her, we have the file and we're leaking it on the internet. Now, I have a document of Robert Drum supplement report. And in this supplement report, Robert Drum tells you he can't hear the audio. Now, that's interesting. Now, I want to read this supplement report. But before I read the supplement report, Julie Carey reported on the Mustafa Al-Jazeera case a year into it, a year after the accident, about a year and a half into it, and she plays the audio on NBC4. I want to play what Julie Carey is reporting on NBC4, and then go back into the supplement report and ask the question, how is it that you can hear the audio when it's being played on NBC4? And the audio is crystal clear. Let's hear what Julie Carey is talking about. This is what Julie Carey is telling us on NBC4. Just about a year and a half into the vehicle accident.
Prosecutors also played a police investigator's interview with Al-Jazeera made 2 days after the crash. Here's part of what he said when asked about what the dashcam video shows.
It just shows you turning into the left-hand lane, no skid marks, no braking, and then just driving into oncoming traffic. I'm trying to figure out why.
I don't know. Why would I do that?
But the judge ruling
So wait a
prosecutors...
minute. NBC4, Julie Carey, because we've leaked the audio on the internet, the same audio that we gave to Internal Affairs, we've leaked it on the internet. Now, Julie Carey is playing it on NBC4 for the whole entire world to hear. You can clearly hear the investigator, and you can clearly hear Mustafa. So when we opened the supplement report of Robert Drum, why is he talking about that he can't hear the audio? How convenient. How convenient that Internal Affairs doesn't update us with the outcome of their internal investigation into the foundation of this case, that the investigator falsified the police report. Let's read the supplement report together of Robert Drum. Now, we saw what the original report, when he wrote in the police report.
Remind me, because I don't remember.
This is the original report. And let's see if I can zoom in. The second paragraph, he said, Mustafa's statement, the argument inside the vehicle. That's what Robert Drum wrote. He wrote that Mustafa told him there is an argument inside the vehicle. This is the original report. Now, this is the supplement report. Let's read the supplement report together. This is the sealed document that is being leaked. So that way you know what is happening behind closed doors and how this prosecutor is allowed and is able to continue to lie to the judge in court. Because the original report was never corrected. Let's read the supplement report. So this supplement report is by Robert Drum. This is a supplement to PD 2300-12076 in reference to 2 typos and clarification of the original report. Referencing line, their relationship per Mustafa has been ongoing since March. He stated like 3 months, which possibly places the relationship into January sometime. Referencing where, in quotes, I know what happened should read, I don't know what happened. Audio was provided by the family, by the Al-Jazari family, of their recording with myself and Mustafa, their audio on their side. For Mustafa is much clearer for Mustafa, but less for myself. The audio is not that clear. Poor investigator Robert Drum, the audio is just not clear enough for him to actually write the police report. In the Al-Jazari recording, when asked when he went to sleep, their recording does not have any audible sound for what I interpret as 20200 off my body worn camera. I leave this information up for interpretation. So he's telling you there he recorded this on his police body cam. Well, I have evidence. That there is no body cam in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case by Robert Drum. Robert Drum, body cam is not in evidence.com. And I remind this community, evidence.com is a secured portal used by the police department to put all the sensitive files, the documents, the police body cams, any file, the dash camera, any sensitive file. The police department use this website, evidence.com, to store sensitive files. Now, normally you can put in a FOIA to get the documents, but in this case, the Commonwealth Attorney seals it. With the help of certain individuals within the police department, I managed to gain access into evidence.com, a police department secured portal, and I took Mustafa's file, and I took a lot of individuals' files in this county. The police department engaged in police misconduct. Now, in Mustafa's file, there is no body cam where this investigator recorded his conversation with Mustafa. The only thing that's in there is our recording, the recording that we supplied the police department. So the question is the police department actively deleting police body cams? Did this investigator never recorded the conversation to begin with? Did he delete his body cam? That's why he was comfortable to falsify Mustafa's statements? And when Now you're talking about you can barely hear the audio. And here in this portion, he's talking about in the police report, in the original police report, you hear that Mustafa told him, I'm in a relationship with Dorothy for a couple of months. That vehicle accident happened on April 5th. So a couple of months will put the relationship in January. This investigator put March. Okay. He asked Mustafa, when did you go to sleep? And Mustafa told him, he didn't give him a specific time, but in the original police report, you specifically have 2 a.m. Now, what this investigator is doing, he wants to say that, Mustafa had enough sleep? Is that what he's talking about? But regardless of what is going on with those 2 points, Mustafa never gave him a time, but he put 2 a.m. Mustafa told him, I'm in a relationship with Dorothy for a couple of months. He put, this is a 1 month relationship. Now, you fixed it, and you're admitting in your supplement report that you fixed it. But that's not what we complained about. We complained to Internal Affairs that you stated in your police report, Robert Drum, you stated in your police report that Mustafa stated, I was arguing with my girlfriend inside the vehicle. Mustafa never said that. As a matter of fact, when you continue reading this supplement report, he never corrects it. And then he says, I can't hear the audio. How convenient. Now, in the original report also, Mustafa said, I know what happened. Mustafa tells investigator Robert Drum, I don't know what happened. I'm driving and there is a vehicle accident. I don't know what happened. This investigator writes, I know. Mustafa said, I know what happened. That's a huge difference. When you're talking about a vehicle accident, when you talk about your girlfriend died, when you talk about a 5-year-old Empress died, and you're saying that he told me I know what happened, that's a huge difference. Now, in the supplemental reports, Robert Drum corrects that point, but he never corrects that Mustafa never told him I was arguing inside the vehicle. Mustafa never said that, and in the supplemental report, it never gets corrected. Let's continue reading the supplement report. Clarifying the argument inside the vehicle and a review of the BWC body worn camera. So he's claiming that he recorded this on his police body cam. Where is the police body cam? Because it's not in Mustafa's file, and none of Mustafa's lawyer can find it. Mustafa did state he wanted to give some background on why it looked like they were arguing inside the vehicle. Mustafa stated a few days ago there was an argument about why he wasn't in the loop about the guy next door. Mustafa stated, how come you never told me this is Glenn? Mustafa stated, why are moving into a place, situating yourself in an apartment where she signed a year lease? Why would you situate yourself in a place next to this person that you were talking about? There was a moment after this statement, I can't clarify, but he referenced something about Glenn leaving the kids in the cold and cheating on Dorothy. Mustafa stated that was what the argument was about. Referencing 2 days ago, Mustafa stated he just decided to leave. He mentioned he didn't know what he was walking into. I asked Mustafa if that was what the argument was about inside the vehicle. Mustafa stated, no, that was a few days ago. I asked Mustafa again what the argument inside the vehicle was about. Mustafa stated he was just trying to give a little bit of background. Mustafa stated, that happened. I was trying to leave. She stopped me. She told me like she loved me. Mustafa stated he didn't believe Dorothy had any ill intention and she was being malicious, so Mustafa forgave her. Mustafa stated Dorothy drove off in her car somewhere in Springfield. He wasn't sure of the exact location. Mustafa stated Dorothy called him while he was smoking a cigarette while parked. Mustafa stated again, I love this girl. I didn't want to leave, but I was really upset at the fact that I was not in the loop. Some of the next part is inaudible, but he references some at the place Mustafa stated. So you see here what he's doing. He said some of the part is inaudible. You can't hear it that clear. That is not true. We're going to listen to the audio. And this case is a matter of public opinion. The audio is on the internet. The supplement report is now going to be on the internet. There is no files that are sealed from this community. He says, I can't hear the audio. Well, we are going to hear the audio. The community is going to hear the audio. And we're going to get to the bottom of how this investigator conveniently said, I can't hear the audio. And the most crucial piece of evidence, the foundation of this case, he can't hear the audio. Mustafa stated again, I love this girl. I didn't want to leave, but I was really upset at the fact that I was not in the loop. Some of the next part is inaudible, but he referenced someone at that place. Mustafa stated, then I forgave her. Mustafa stated, the day of the accident where I woke up in the afternoon, there was an argument back and forth relating to that. Mustafa stated again, it was just back and forth about the same stuff, about the guy next door, referencing my original statement of the original report, argument, and context inside the vehicle. He had never talked to him before until that night. He dropped the kids off at the neighbors. The details of this argument, as described by Mustafa, are Mustafa found out about Glenn. Dorothy didn't tell Mustafa about Glenn. Mustafa was upset. He wanted to leave. Dorothy apologized. Mustafa took her back. Mustafa then contradicts himself and states he doesn't remember arguing inside the vehicle. Mustafa said, we were good. Dorothy sent him money to fill up the gas tank in the car. When questioned twice about the argument inside the vehicle, Mustafa was able to recall the argument 2 days prior that carried over into the morning before the collision. Please see the forensic interview, the child interview, for further context about about verbal and physical abuse related to the argument. Reference Glenn, the neighbor. Mustafa described the same argument the afternoon he woke up, and his last reference off again. It was just back and forth about the same stuff. The same guy, this investigator, assumes the contest is related to inside the vehicle after being asked multiple times about the argument inside the vehicle. Okay, so you read this. The investigator is talking about he can't hear the audio. That he never corrects that Mustafa never said I was arguing inside the vehicle. I mean, when you read this, reading this, the supplement report, reading the original report and reading the supplement report, he never corrected it. He never fixed that Mustafa never said I was arguing inside the vehicle. The original report shows that this investigator wrote, Mustafa stated I was arguing inside the vehicle. The supplement report show that this investigator simply can't hear the audio. How could he fix his original statement if he can't hear the audio? Let's listen to what Mustafa, the actual recording. Now that you read the supplement report, let's listen to the recording itself. And the question is this investigator falsifying Mustafa's statement? Did he lie in the police report? Is the internal affairs in the police department helping this investigator cover up so that the prosecutor in court can continue to tell the judge that Mustafa stated I was arguing inside the vehicle? Let's listen to the audio and get to the bottom of it. This is the audio conversation that was recorded by Mustafa brother Muhammad. By the way, the body cam that they claim that investigator Robert Drum does not exist. It's not in evidence.com. So this is the recording by Mustafa brother Muhammad. Before we listen to this audio, I think it'll be a good idea to play the body cam of Robert Drum and what he's telling you about what actually happened inside the vehicle. He's telling you that the dash camera is going to show that Mustafa is arguing with Dorothy. Okay? And then we'll play the actual dash camera. That's going to show that this investigator is lying about the content of the dash camera. There is no argument inside the vehicle. Mustafa never said I was arguing inside the vehicle. Let's listen to what Robert Drum is telling us. This is Robert Drum.
And you saw the damage.
So they're having a disagreement. Apparently,
Obviously.
you can tell there's tension in the car. But there's 70, 80 videos free going at it. But she gets upset. He's lecturing her or talking to her. She gets upset. And then just see straight face. Just all of a sudden, her steering wheel on the left hand. You see the front of the car too, who's driving. And you see the inside of all the occupants and the little girl in the back. You can tell the seatbelt's behind her. And that big speaker, the black one, is sitting right here above her head. He's driving along straight face. After they had an argument or discussion, he goes like this, left into the left-hand lane, doesn't hop a curb, just goes straight through the intersection. In the oncoming traffic, doesn't change his face. She starts screaming and yelling. She's up on the car, screaming, "No, Moses, no!" And then the second before they hit that car, it cuts out.
All right, so you listen to what the investigator, Robert Drum, this is an investigator that said Mustafa stated he was arguing inside the vehicle. Now he's telling everybody that Mustafa was arguing with his girlfriend and just drive into oncoming traffic. Doesn't even have a facial expression. Let's watch the dash camera really quick. And then we'll come back to the audio that's in question. The conversation between Mustafa and investigator Robert Drum. This is Mustafa. Moments before the dash camera cuts off. Now, this dash camera cuts off before impact. When I log into the police department and I retrieve the dash camera, all they have is a dash camera that cuts off before impact. Where's the rest of the dash camera? This police department cut the dash camera before impact and muted the audio. 17 frames are missing from the camera facing inward. Let's look at Mustafa before the dash camera cuts off. This investigator says no facial reaction, right? This is Mustafa. Okay. You see Mustafa's jaw is wide open. He sticks his tongue inside his cheeks. He's panicking to the vehicle accident. Now, this camera cuts off before impact. Where is the rest of Mustafa's facial reaction? Why can't we see what Mustafa's facial reaction is? Why is this camera cut before impact? You tell me that's all there is in Mustafa's dash camera before it cuts off? There is no actual impact? And what do we see? Even with the cut version, Mustafa is reacting to the vehicle accident. Mustafa's jaw is wide open. Investigator Robert Drum tells us there is no reaction. He just drove into oncoming traffic. Mustafa's jaw is wide open. He sticks his tongue inside his cheek, reacting to the vehicle accident. And then all of a sudden, the dash camera cuts off. Now, when you see the dash camera cuts off, this dash camera records in 1 minute increments. This is a very sophisticated dash camera. It's if you were to buy a dash camera, you would go to your local Best Buy, and it's about $500. Or records the outside, or records the inside. It has audio, but then we see a dash camera that doesn't have audio, a dash camera that's cut before impact, I'm looking for the last 8 seconds before this dash camera cuts off. There we go. So this dash camera records in 1 minute increments, and it saves in 1 minute increments. Now, it has a camera facing outward, and it has a lens camera facing inward. It's connected to the same, it's one dash camera. Now, the police department tell you that this dash camera cuts off before impact. All right, let's entertain that their narrative, that this dash camera cuts off before impact, which doesn't happen, by the way. There is no dash camera that cuts off before impact. But let's entertain that narrative. Why is there 17 frames missing from the camera facing inward? Now, what am I talking about? This dash camera records in 1 minute increments, and it's saved in evidence.com in 1 minute increments files. And then there's an 8-second file, camera facing outward, and a camera facing inward, specifically 8.3 facing outward and 8.0 facing inward. How does that happen? How do we get two different frames? The camera cuts off on two different frames. Let's watch the last 8 seconds and count the frames. This is the dash camera, and it shows that Star, how are you, ma'am? Thank you for being here. We're going over the dash camera, and we're looking into the frames that are missing, and why does this dash camera have missing frames? Please join us on YouTube to join us on YouTube under Not Another Boring Podcast to see the dash camera that we're playing on the screen. This dash camera is sealed by the county. Commonwealth Amy Ashworth is terrified that the community is going to see this dash camera. So it's sealed. But we've since leaked it so the community can see what actually happened inside the vehicle. Robert Drum tells us this is not a vehicle accident, that they were arguing inside the vehicle, where we're not finding it. We're not seeing that there's an argument inside the vehicle, and we're seeing a vehicle accident. Mustafa is doing everything he can to avoid the vehicle accident. In this dash camera, you'll see that Mustafa is, he takes a lane, and he's attempting to pass the vehicle in front of him. It's the wrong lane. He finds himself in a position where he can't get back into traffic because the vehicle blocked him right there. At that point, when he found out that he's in the wrong lane, there's nowhere to go. You can't get back into traffic. He hits the brake, and there's brake failure. The police department inspected Mustafa's vehicle and found brake failure. Now, there's a body cam where the police department inspected Mustafa's vehicle. This is a body cam where they inspected Mustafa's vehicle and found brake failure.
Brake didn't engage.
Brake did not engage. The computer inside the vehicle showed that Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time, and the vehicle could not stop. Let's go back into the dash camera. Now, Mustafa is driving. He's not speeding. He's driving. He's driving normal. He's driving normal. He's not speeding. And he's attempting to pass a vehicle in front of him. He takes the wrong lane. When he realizes it's the wrong lane, he's in a position where he can't get back into traffic. You see that vehicle on his right? He can't get back into traffic. He hits the brake, and there's brake failure. The computer inside the vehicle showed that Mustafa's foot is on the brake the whole entire time. The vehicle drops from speed limit 55 to 35, but the vehicle does not stop. Now, the prosecutor says Mustafa jerked the vehicle into oncoming traffic. That is not true. When you watch the dash camera, you see that Mustafa ends up in oncoming traffic. Watch the wheel. Watch where he's at. The vehicle ends up in oncoming traffic. His foot is on the brake the whole entire time. He can't get back into traffic. He hits the brake, and there's nowhere to go. The vehicle does not stop. He ends up in oncoming traffic. Now, the question is, what did Mustafa do when he ended up in oncoming traffic? He avoids the first vehicle, the second vehicle, the third vehicle, makes it all the way into the fourth lane. Now, when you watch the dash camera, you see the dash camera cuts off here. Where's the rest of the dash camera? This is the dash camera. And the question for the police department, where is the rest of the dash camera? You see that Mustafa ends up in oncoming traffic. He ends up in oncoming traffic. Let's watch that one more time. So he's driving, speed limit. He's not speeding. He takes a lane right here, and he's attempting to pass the vehicle in front of him. He takes a lane, but he took the wrong lane. When he realized that he was in the wrong lane, right here, there is nowhere to go. There's a vehicle on his right that blocks him from going back into traffic. He hits the brake right there. His foot is on the brake the whole entire time. And there's brake failure. We just watched the body cam where the police inspect Mustafa's vehicle and then finds out there's brake failure. The vehicle doesn't stop. It ends up in oncoming traffic. What did Mustafa do when he ends up in oncoming traffic? He avoids that vehicle. You see that vehicle that's coming his way? He avoids that vehicle. He avoids the second vehicle. He avoids the third vehicle. And he makes it all the way to the fourth lane. Now, the dash camera cuts off here. And the question is, where is the rest of the dash camera? Now, one interesting one interesting thing that you can, when you're watching this dash camera, is why does the camera facing inward stop before the camera facing outward? The camera facing inward inside the vehicle cuts off, while the camera facing outward continues rolling. Now, when you count the frames, that's 17 frames missing from the vehicle, from the camera facing inward. What am I talking about? Let's count the seconds together. That's 1, 2, 3 seconds, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.0. Watch. Let's do that one more time. That's 1 second. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7.5, 7.7, 8.0, and it cuts off right here. While the camera facing outward continues rolling, 8.1, 8.2, 8.3. Now, when you count the frames, that's 17 frames missing from this dash camera. And this prosecutor wants to talk about Mustafa's facial expression. This investigator wants to talk about Mustafa's facial expression. Let's do that one more time. That's 1 second, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.2, 7.4, 7.6, 7.8, 8.0, and the camera facing inward cuts off. What happened to this dash camera? Now, if we were to entertain the narrative coming out of the police department that this dash camera cuts off before impact, how does it fall on two different frames? This is one dash camera, a lens facing outward and a camera facing inward. But there are 17 frames missing from the inside of the vehicle, specifically missing from Mustafa's facial expression. Now, let's watch Mustafa's facial expression one more time. Mustafa's reaction when the action was happening. This is Mustafa inside the vehicle. You see Mustafa is driving. When he realized there is a vehicle accident, his jaw is wide open. He's sticking his tongue inside his cheeks, reacting to the vehicle accident in panic. But this investigator wants to tell us that Mustafa had no reaction. Let's watch what this investigator is telling us about Mustafa one more time.
And you saw the damage.
So they're having a disagreement. Apparently,
Obviously.
you can tell there's tension in the car. But there's 70, 80 videos free. She's going after. But she gets upset. He's lecturing her or talking to her. She gets upset, and then just sees straight face. Just all of a sudden, starts steering on the left hand. You see the front of the car too, who's driving, and you see the inside of all the occupants and the little girl in the back. You can tell the seatbelt's behind her, and that big speaker, the black one, is sitting right here above her head. He's driving along straight face. After they had an argument or discussion, he goes like this left into the left-hand lane, doesn't hop a curb, just goes straight through the intersection. In the oncoming traffic, doesn't change his face. She starts screaming and yelling. She's up on the car, screaming, "No, Moses, no!" And then a second before they hit that car.
All right, so we watched the last 8 seconds before the camera cuts off. We're watching what this investigator is talking about, and he's flat out lying about the whole entire situation. He says there's an argument inside the vehicle. Mustafa doesn't react. He has stone cold face, doesn't have a reaction, and he drives into oncoming traffic. Now, we watched a police body cams where they inspected the vehicle and found brake failure. We saw that Mustafa is reacting to the vehicle accident. His jaw is wide open. He sticks his tongue inside his cheek. And we're watching this dash camera cut off before impact. We're watching 17 frames missing from inside the vehicle while the outside camera is still rolling. We're watching a dash camera without audio. Now, this is Officer Zymus with Digital Forensic, who admit that this dash camera does have audio. This is Officer Zymus.
My name is Katie Zamus. I'm a detective in digital forensics on the Prince William County Police Department.
Now, this is the document that she put in Mustafa's file. The sound record feature on the device was turned on. This is a Rexon dash camera. It's a very sophisticated dash camera. So you're admitting that the audio was turned on. Showed that the file did have an audio track. So where's the audio? Is the police department muting this dash camera, cutting this dash camera so they can tell you Mustafa didn't have a facial reaction? Falsifying his statements inside the car so they can tell you he told us that he was arguing inside the vehicle? And then when you take this to internal affairs, they take the audio of the conversation between the investigator and Mustafa, give it to the same investigator that falsified the police report, and have him conveniently say, I couldn't hear the audio. Well, unfortunately for you, you can delete your body cam in evidence.com, but we have the audio to the conversation. Mustafa brother, Muhammad, at the time, recorded that phone call conversation. Let's listen to the phone call conversation. And you tell me if you can hear the audio. Because this investigator can't hear the audio. He says in the police report. So you tell me if you can hear the audio. Let's listen to the audio.
Okay. Well, hey, again, I work for the crash unit. My job is to work on the crash, and there are an ungodly amount of witnesses that saw me driving down the road, that everything was absolutely fine. And then you turn into the left-hand lane of Dumpers Road, and then you drive basically in the oncoming.
Did you hear what he just said? He said, I have a lot of witnesses that witness you driving normal. You weren't driving reckless. You weren't driving erratic. You were driving normal. Listen. So we know from the computer inside Mustafa's vehicle, we know that Mustafa was not speeding. And from the witnesses, Mustafa was not driving erratically before this vehicle accident. According to the investigator, Mustafa did this on purpose, but that's not what he said on the scene. On the scene, he says this is a vehicle accident, and we'll get into that body cam. Let's continue listening.
And
specifically, this investigator said that Mustafa cleared all the vehicles, made it to the fourth lane, and the SUV turned into Mustafa. We'll put a pin in that one, and we'll come back to the body cam, what he said on the scene. Now, this body cam is sealed. You can't hear what he said on the scene. But unfortunately for him, we have the body cam when he was reconstructing this accident. And he said this is an accident. Now, Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. While we're on that, let's watch the body cam. And then we'll come back to this audio. This is Robert Drum, and this is what he says on the scene.
What you think, please?
Trying to find where they spun.
Seems like, yeah. That's a smart play. It's a dead end. Hurts
Because the damage is on the right, which caused them to flip that way. So.
And then it finally broke off with Soup.
So that's her.
They're coming in sideways.
Yep.
Gets popped, rotates.
And she just rolls backwards.
So here's the question: which way did they? Because she comes straight, she hits.
She would have turned into it.
She would have turned into him. He's talking about the SUV. Mustafa clears all the lanes. The first lane, the second lane, the third lane, makes it all the way to the fourth lane. And he said she would have turned into him. The only way this vehicle accident would happen if the SUV, Mustafa clears all and the SUV turns into Mustafa, into the fourth lane.
Coming to turn this way, or he gets hit. He turns and gets hit. Boom! Rotates all the way around. Which that crossover is indicative, and goes there.
All right, so let's go back into the conversation between Mustafa and investigator Robert Drum.
You get hit by a Suburban going the opposite direction. Now, Moses, do you have a good driving record?
I would say I have a good driving record. Like I haven't had any like major tickets. I've only had like a registration, like some kind of inspection ticket, but I sold that I got the ticket, then I sold the vehicle. So like I was gonna go and like go to the court, but I'm not sure what happened.
All right, so Mustafa's telling him, I have perfect driving record. Mustafa has perfect driving record. When you listen to this conversation between Robert Drum, you want to look for a couple of things. Did Mustafa tell this investigator that he was arguing inside the vehicle? The police reports show Robert Drum tells us that Mustafa told him I was arguing inside the vehicle. And when you're done listening to the conversation, ask yourself the question, is internal affairs helping this investigator not correct his police reports, not correct the falsified police report where he said Mustafa told me I was arguing inside the vehicle, Is Internal Affairs helping this investigator continue to lie about Mustafa and his supplemental report by giving him the audio to conveniently say, I can't hear this audio? I can hear it. You can hear it. Why can't this investigator hear this audio? In his supplemental report, he wrote, I can't hear the audio. So let's continue listening to the conversation.
But I think it stuck on my record for like some kind of like inspection or the inspection sticker. Something happened, but the car was sold at the same day.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Big deal.
Yeah, I don't.
Big deal. So, there's a few things that we've already done. We've written a search warrant to get the little black box out of the car. And of course, it doesn't tell us that you're speeding. Not at all.
It doesn't tell us that you're speeding. So the computer inside the vehicle showed that Mustafa was not speeding.
And we've already written a search warrant to get the dash cam. And the dash cam shows us a story of, looks like you're arguing with Dorothy. She's crying. And then you turn into the left-hand lane and then you drive into oncoming traffic. The dash cam tells us the story. And I want you to tell me your side of the story, because Moses, I want to believe that you are a good human being, and none of this was done on purpose, and that this was just a true accident. But can you tell me why the dash cam shows what it shows?
All right, so in this portion, he's asking Mustafa. He tells him, Mustafa, the dash camera inside the car shows that you were arguing with Dorothy. And then you drive into oncoming traffic. Now, this investigator, we have the dash camera. This dash camera is sealed by the Commonwealth Attorney. Mind you, this Commonwealth Attorney is so terrified that she went to the judge and sealed off the dash camera. And she sealed off this dash camera. You ask yourself, why is she sealing off this dash camera? The investigator is telling us that he was arguing inside the vehicle. Wouldn't you think this is the first piece of evidence that she's going to show the community that this monster was arguing with his girlfriend and he intentionally drove into oncoming? But this Commonwealth Attorney is terrified to show us the dash camera? Something is not adding up. Now, unfortunately for the Commonwealth Attorney, I have the dash camera. I stole this dash camera from her, and I leaked it on the internet. Now you can see that this investigator is flat out lying about the dash camera. There is no argument inside the vehicle. As a matter of fact, we'll come back to what Mustafa tells the investigator, but let's watch the dash camera really quick. The reason this Commonwealth Attorney is terrified and she sealed off this dash camera from the community is because when you watch the dash camera, you'll see that Dorothy and Mustafa are passing back and forth a cigarette 6 times. And the question is, how could you be arguing if they're passing back and forth a cigarette 6 times? If Dorothy gives Mustafa direction 3 times. That's why the Commonwealth Attorney is terrified. Let's go to the dash camera. This is the portion where Dorothy is giving Mustafa a cigarette. She passes the cigarette to Mustafa. And here, investigator Robert Drum wants to tell us that they were arguing inside the vehicle. He's like, Mustafa, the dash camera show that you were arguing inside the vehicle. But then when you watch the dash camera, you see that Dorothy is passing a cigarette to Mustafa back and forth 6 times. And that's why the Commonwealth Attorney is terrified, and she sealed the dash camera from the community because she wants to tell the community that there's an argument inside the car. She wants to cover up for her investigator that falsified the police report and said, no, you told me that you were arguing inside the vehicle. And then when you actually watch the dash camera, you see Dorothy and Mustafa are passing back and forth a cigarette 6 times. So that's the first time they passed a cigarette. Here you see Mustafa passing a cigarette to Dorothy. Let's watch that one more time. Mustafa passes the cigarette to Dorothy. She gives him directions. And this is the part. So here she gives him directions. And then here he passes the cigarette to Dorothy. I mean, pay close attention. Here she gives him direction, and he specifically tells her which way. You zoom in on Mustafa, and we'll zoom in. He tells her which way. She's giving him directions. You see how she gestured? Keep going straight. Let's zoom in on Mustafa. Watch that one more time. You see Mustafa says, you can lip read what he says. He says, which way? Which way? And then she gestures. Keep going straight. Now, the problem with the prosecutor wants to tell you that here Dorothy says, I want to get out of the car. She got herself a bullshit lip reader. She got herself, I mean, look at what's happening here. They falsified the police report. They mute and cut the audio. They cut the dash camera. And they got themselves an expert, a lip reader, a bullshit lip reader that wants to tell you here, Dorothy is saying, I want to get out of the car. When in fact, they're passing back and forth a cigarette 6 times. She's giving him direction, but the lip reader wants to take the stand and say, Dorothy says, I want to get out of the car. But they want to hide this dash camera from you. This is why this camera is sealed. Because when you watch it, you'll start seeing the bullshit. Here you see Mustafa give Dorothy. Dorothy gives Mustafa, passes a cigarette to Mustafa. This is the 3rd time. You see the boombox in the back. This is a JBL speaker, so when the sound go back and forth, the faster it goes back and forth. They're listening to music. This is Dorothy giving Mustafa directions for the 3rd time. Mustafa is taking Dorothy to her mom's anniversary. They're laying flower on her mother's grave. So Dorothy's giving him direction. This is Mustafa passing the cigarette to Dorothy. You see how she grabs the cigarette from Mustafa? I mean, watch how Dorothy grabbed the cigarette from Mustafa, and we'll zoom in. You see how she grabs the cigarette from Mustafa? Look how she feels Mustafa's fingers as she grabs the cigarette. Dorothy loved Mustafa. They loved each other, and you can tell how Dorothy takes the cigarette from Mustafa. And that's why the prosecutor is so terrified. The prosecutor is so terrified that the Commonwealth, that the community is going to see this dash camera. As a matter of fact, the prosecutor wants to conditionally enter this dash camera into where the jury doesn't get to see it. Let's zoom in. Now, she's not only terrified that the community is watching this dash camera, she's terrified that the jury is going to see Mustafa and Dorothy are passing back and forth the cigarette 6 times. Dorothy feels Mustafa's fingers as she grabbed the cigarette. Let's zoom in on Dorothy's hands and how Dorothy takes a cigarette from Mustafa. Pay close attention to how Dorothy takes the cigarette from Mustafa. They're driving normal. Everything's okay. They're passing back and forth a cigarette. This is Dorothy gives Mustafa the cigarette. This is the 5th time that they pass a cigarette back and forth. Robert Drum wants to tell you they're arguing. In a phone call, when he talks to Mustafa, look how Dorothy grabs the cigarette from Mustafa. I'm going to zoom in. You see how Dorothy feels Mustafa's fingers as she grabbed that cigarette? We're going to rewind. Watch how Dorothy feels Mustafa's fingers as she grabs the cigarette. And you want to tell me that they're arguing? Robert Drum wants to tell you they're arguing inside the vehicle. But his Commonwealth attorney is so terrified that she sealed off this dash camera. The Commonwealth attorney is so terrified that now she's so terrified that she doesn't even want the jury to see this dash camera. Look how Dorothy feels Mustafa's fingers as she takes the cigarette from him. Now, for those that are watching that wants to troll the conversation, that's been trolling the conversation from the beginning, they tell you they're smoking weed. No, they're not. Dorothy has cancer. Dorothy has cancer, and she smokes hemp. Hemp helps with her cancer. How do you know that? What's your proof? They tell you, what is your proof? I have Mustafa's toxicology report. Mustafa's toxicology report show no alcohol and no drugs. Let's pull up that document. This is Mustafa's toxicology report. In the toxicology report, let's zoom in on the document. Blood alcohol non-detected. THC 0.0003. No alcohol and no drugs. What Dorothy and Mustafa are smoking is hemp. Dorothy has cancer, and this helps with her cancer. Hemp does not have drugs, does not have THC. The THC in Mustafa's toxicology report is 0.0003, which shows this is hemp. And this goes to the foundation of this case. They want to tell you that they're arguing inside the vehicle. So let's go back to the phone call conversation between Mustafa and the investigator. Now, you heard that Robert Drum is telling him, Mustafa, the dash camera show that you are arguing inside the vehicle. And this is what Mustafa replies. Let's go back just a little bit so you can hear what this investigator is asking Mustafa.
You are a good human being. And the dash cam shows a story. 2 things that we've already done. We've written a search warrant to get the little black box out of the car. And of course, it doesn't tell us that you're speeding. Not at all. And we've already written a search warrant to get the dash cam. And the dash cam shows a story of, looks like you're arguing with Dorothy. She's crying. And then you turn into the left-hand lane, and then you drive into oncoming traffic. The dash cam tells us the story. And I want you to tell me your side of the story, because Moses, I want to believe that you are a good human being, and none of this was done on purpose, and that this was just a true accident. But can you tell me why the dash cam shows what it shows?
Okay.
You're telling me you don't remember, but there's nothing on the dash cam that shows that you are having a physical impairment, a seizure, diabetic emergency. It looks like you get a little frustrated, like you wanted to pass a vehicle.
I'm not
and
sure.
then you ended up driving into oncoming traffic.
I don't know what happened. There were I don't know what happened. It was I'm trying to remember if there was a car next to me that was either merging onto my lane or I'm trying to move to the other lane. I'm not sure what happened, but all I know is that I was driving straight and she was crying because something about she wanted to go to the graveyard, but she didn't have a driver's license. Her car wasn't working. She wanted me to go with her. And something happened. I cooked for the kids. I cooked I cooked them a lot of eggs and I made them some good food and everybody ate. Everybody was okay, and then we were supposed to go and take all the kids, the two boys and Empress. We were going to take all 3 kids and leave the 14-year-old. He was going to go hang out with his friend at his friend's house. So his friend came over, and then the 14-year-old was going to go just hang out with his friend. And then we were going to take all the boys to go see Grandma. It was her birthday. And then at that moment, she told me that she's only going to take Empress, and the boys are going to clean the house. So Imagine was going to clean the house, and when we came back, I was going to fix his phone screen. That was I had plans where I'm going to fix his phone for him, and everybody's going to be happy. And as we're driving, I don't know what happened. It was so sudden. All I see is a flashing white light. I don't know. And then I wake up in the hospital or in and out. I can hear some people I think it's the nurses or something. I'm not sure what was going on, but I don't know. I don't know what happened.
All right, so Mustafa's telling him he doesn't know what happened. The investigator in the report, he puts, Mustafa told me I know what happened. Now that's a problem. Mustafa's telling you, I don't know what happened, and you tell him, you're right, I know what happened. And then Mustafa lost his family in this vehicle accident. Mustafa's girlfriend died in a vehicle accident, her 5-year-old baby. Mustafa was in a coma. He was helicoptered to the hospital. This is 2 days after the vehicle accident. I mean, there's an off-duty paramedic that tells you the condition of how severe Mustafa's condition was inside this vehicle. He tells you that Mustafa has a concussion. He thinks Obama is the president. I mean, that's how severe Mustafa's condition was. Mustafa wakes up from a coma. And then 2 days later, you have this investigator talking to you on the phone. Mustafa just lost his family in a tragic vehicle accident. And you're sitting there questioning him. And then you take it as far as you falsified his statement. And you say, you told me that Mustafa, you told me you were arguing inside the vehicle. Now, we're going to continue listening to the audio. Let's go into this body cam and hear what the off-duty paramedic is talking about in the condition of Mustafa.
Started assessing the gentleman.
And did he say anything?
He didn't say anything. Didn't know what was happening. Thought Obama was still the president. Thought it was 2022. So he's a little incoherent.
Do you work for us?
I do not.
Okay. Who do you work for?
Marine Corps Embassy Security Group.
Okay.
So I'm a Navy corpsman down there.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Yep. So.
And we have your info?
I think so. The lady officer right there got me.
This is Mustafa in the ambulance.
Is he pretty much out of it? Yeah, this is his. Oh, cool. Is this his too?
Yep.
Was it in his pocket?
Yep. Front left.
Okay.
Okay, ready to go?
What is that?
Hey, sir, my name's Investigator Mason. Real quick, can you tell me what happened?
No, that's what you mean. I don't.
What's up?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? What's that thing you remember?
Nah. I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
I'm just really confused as like what's going on.
What's that?
What's going on?
What's going on? You don't remember what's going on?
No.
Do you know where you were going?
Right now?
Well, a minute ago in the car.
I got into a car accident, I think.
Yeah, where are you coming from?
I don't remember at the moment, to be honest.
I'm going to borrow this arm here, okay? I'm going to borrow this arm.
We're going to start an IV on you.
At the moment, I don't recall what's happening right now. I'm really like confused.
Okay.
What's going on?
Do you remember taking any drugs or anything today? Huh? No? Okay. Did y'all find a license on him or anything?
Yes, it's with the unit outside. If you find the captain of engine 23.
Okay. So when Chad Mason first enters the ambulance, what did he say? Is he pretty much out of it? Mustafa's out of it. Mustafa's disoriented. Mustafa's confused. He doesn't even know where he's at, what happened, what is going on. Listen to what Chad Mason says.
Is he pretty much out of it? Yeah, this is his. Oh.
Is he pretty much out of it? This is Mustafa. Is he pretty much out of it? There's another body cam where Mustafa lays in a coma in front of his vehicle. This is Mustafa laying in a coma in front of his vehicle. While you have paramedics and firefighters all around Mustafa. Mustafa is in and out of consciousness. Mustafa finally gets helicoptered to the hospital. He wakes up from a coma. They cleared Mustafa when they did his toxicology report. We took Mustafa home. We're taking care of him. And then you have Investigator Drum calls Mustafa. Now, anybody that is in Mustafa's shoes, when you wake up from a coma, you just had this tragic event. You lose your girlfriend. You lose her 5-year-old baby. You lost your family in a vehicle accident. Now, it is illegal for an investigator to sit there and interrogate you. You don't know where you're at. Your thoughts are all scrambled. You just came out of a major traumatic event. You just came out of a major vehicle accident. And you have this investigator that is having a conversation with you. And when you listen to the conversation, what you want to pay attention for, listen to the tone of the investigator and how he's no longer asking Mustafa. He's telling Mustafa that you were arguing inside this vehicle. You did this intentionally. Mustafa just came out of this vehicle accident. I mean, he's still trying to put himself together. And you have this investigator breathing down his neck, telling him you did this on purpose. The dash camera shows us that you did this on purpose, when in fact, the dash camera show there is no argument inside the vehicle. Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident and then go as far as falsify Mustafa's statement. Let's continue listening to the phone call conversation.
Okay. So, Moses, do you have kids yourself?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you want to have kids yourself?
You know, honestly, I would love to have a kid. Like these kids are like flesh. You know, they have a personality. They're just beautiful beings. So I basically took part in taking that initiative as being like their father figure. And from there, I just like started cooking for them and just caring for them and like buying them clothes and gifts and incentives. And I mean, it was all new to me, you know, but I loved like every bit of it, you know, just like putting
your facial expressions in the car, what were you upset about?
Well, something about okay, so when I met Dorothy, she was living in the hotel rooms, like hotels with the kids.
Yeah.
And previous to that, she was living with this guy named Glenn. And he lives in, what is it, Foxslayer. So he lives in that subdivision, right? So he lives in the apartment next to our apartment. So when Dorothy moved into that apartment, we were supposed to the up the hill location. But I didn't know anything about this, by the way. Like I didn't know anything. So I don't know anything about. All I know is that there's an ex-boyfriend named Glenn. I don't know the guy. Never talked to him. All I know is that she told me that in the cold, like when it was freezing outside and cold, he had like another girlfriend and a baby on the side, and like he was cheating on her, and he threw them out like in the street. That's why they're living in the hotels. So I hear that story, you know, like I'm thinking like, huh, okay, so like he threw you guys out in the street, whatever. that's not nice. So when she got her place, it turns out like instead of getting the apartment like up the hill, because I think there was like some kind of renovations or whatever, so they gave her the apartment right there at the apartment 204. So a few days ago, what was it, like before the accident, like a few days ago, we had an argument about, what was it? The argument was, like this person that's like standing right there in the balcony, like, you know, he's like smoking a cigarette and all that, whatever, right? Like he knows me or he knows about me, but I actually had no idea whatsoever who this person is. I thought it was just a regular neighbor, like a regular person, just like, you know, smoking a cigarette. So a few days ago, it was like an argument about how come I wasn't like in the loop, like, you know, like how come you never told me that this is Glenn, like the person, like why are we moving into like a place, like, you know, like you're situating yourself in an apartment where she signed a year lease. So I was.
Listen to what he tells him here. This is the foundation of this whole entire case. Mustafa is telling him about the relationship. Mustafa is telling him about his girlfriend. He's just giving him details about their relationship. This investigator is going to clearly ask Mustafa, are you talking about, is this argument inside the vehicle? Mustafa's like, no, I'm just giving you like details. Like a few days ago, in the police report, this investigator falsifies the police report. And he says, Mustafa told me. He takes everything that Mustafa is talking about and he puts it in the vehicle. Now, this is a huge problem because you're talking about fatalities. You're talking about Mustafa's family is dead. You take that and you put it in the vehicle. That's a huge problem. Now, if it wasn't for this audio, you can't, it's your word against the investigator's word. Remember, the body cam of Robert Drum has been deleted from evidence.com. If it wasn't for Muhammad recording this phone call, Muhammad, Mustafa's brother, recording this phone call, there is no way that you can prove that this investigator falsified the the police report. Listen to what this investigator is about to ask Mustafa. He's going to ask him a very specific question. Mustafa, is this argument inside the vehicle? Mustafa tells him, no, I'm just telling you details a couple of days ago. Investigator puts in the report, it says right there on the screen, Mustafa stated the argument was inside the vehicle. Listen.
Like, why would you situate yourself in a place next to this person that you were, talking about? Like, he threw you in the street in the cold and left your kids freezing and, like, was horrible and cheated on you and all that. So, like, how come I wasn't in the loop? So that's what the argument was about. And then when I find that out, I decided to just leave. I said, you know what, I'm just going to leave. Because, like, what am I doing here? Like, I don't even know what I walked into. So I was.
So that's what the argument was about in the car?
No, that was like a few days ago, like before that car.
What was the argument about in the car?
Oh, okay. Let me just tell you. So I'm just giving you like a little background so I can lead to that. Yes, sir. So that happened. I was gonna leave. She stopped me. She told me like she loves me, and like I saw it, like, it was not like malicious or intentional that, she was trying to hurt me or anything. So I forgave her and I said, okay, I'll stay.
Awesome. Good man.
Yeah. So she drove off in her car. She drove off to like.
Robert Drum says that this part he can't hear. This part where he's specifically asking Mustafa, is what you're talking about inside the car? Mustafa tell him, no, I'm giving you details like background a couple of days ago. Conveniently for this investigator, he can't hear the audio. Internal Affairs give him the audio. They give the audio to the same investigator that falsified the police report. How convenient for this investigator to write a supplemental report that he can't hear this portion. And the question that you want to ask yourself is the police department, is Internal Affairs covering up for this investigator to allow the prosecutor in court to continue repeating the falsified statements in the police reports? That's what's happening here. The original reports was never corrected because conveniently this investigator couldn't hear this audio. But me and you can hear it, but he can't hear it. And it's been 2.5 years, and Mustafa sits in a county jail over falsified statements. And in court, every time he has a bond hearing, the prosecutor says, Investigator Robert Drum wrote in his police report that Mustafa stated he was arguing inside the vehicle. So it doesn't matter what the dash camera show is going to show anymore. It doesn't matter because they're not even, there is a bond hearing. Mustafa does not have trial for 2.5 years. Every time Mustafa goes in front of a judge, the prosecutor gets up and does her dance. The investigator said in the police report that Mustafa stated he was arguing inside the vehicle. She's muddying up the water. By the time you get to trial, then you can play the dash camera, then you can play the evidence. But to this day, the prosecutor, Commonwealth Amy Ashworth, is refusing to put the evidence on the record. It's been 2.5 years and we can't subpoena and examine the SD card in Mustafa's dash camera. The police department says there's an audio, but we can't hire an independent expert to get to the bottom of it. We can't reconstruct the vehicle accident. What's the mystery here? Why are they so terrified? They're terrified because the minute you put the evidence on the record, it's going to show that they've lied. Let's continue listening to the conversation.
Somewhere in Springfield, that's what she told me, but I'm not sure. But she said she drove that direction, and then she drove to like the opposite direction, and then she called me. I was just parked. Like, I'm like, okay, smoking a cigarette. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know. Like, I love this girl, and I didn't want to leave, but I was really upset at the fact that I was in the loop of like like I'm next to the person that she was talking about in that place. And then I forgave her and I said, okay, I'll stay. And then the day of the accident, where I woke up in the afternoon, and then it was like an argument back and forth relating to that. So it was just back and forth about that same stuff, like about, like, you know, the guy next door. And I've never talked to him before until that night after I got the kids over to the neighbor. I want to make sure they're okay. That's when I like saw him face to face, and like, you know, he was like caring, like, you know, he was looking out for the kids.
So you're telling me the foundation of this case, the prosecutor wants to claim that Mustafa was arguing inside the vehicle, that he drove into oncoming traffic because he's angry over an ex-boyfriend he doesn't even know, that when you listen to the tape, he has nothing but nice things to say about this guy that he doesn't even know. He said, after I woke up from a coma, after I was released from the hospital, when I was at the apartment checking on the kids, I ran into this guy. I didn't even know he was the ex-boyfriend. He's a nice guy. He looked like he wanted to help. Because at the time, Mustafa was asking, they wouldn't update him on 5-year-old Empress. And there was this random guy he doesn't even recognize. He doesn't even know. He's never met this ex-boyfriend. But the prosecutor wants to tell you that Mustafa did this on purpose. Crashed a vehicle over someone he doesn't even know. There's a body cam of the ex-boyfriend when he's questioned by the police. He says, Mustafa doesn't know me. The ex-boyfriend say Mustafa doesn't know him. Mustafa says, I don't know the guy. He has nothing but nice things to say about the ex-boyfriend. But the whole entire case is built on investigator falsify Mustafa's statement. He says, Mustafa told me I was arguing inside the vehicle, and they build a whole entire case over an ex-boyfriend that Mustafa doesn't even know. And then when you listen to what Mustafa's talking about, he says, I met Dorothy. She was living in her van with 5 kids in between hotels. They get an apartment, and then he later found out that he's in an apartment where the ex-boyfriend is in the same complex. He asks her, he tells her, why are we in the same complex with the ex-boyfriend? And then he finds out that it's just a lease. She's signed onto this lease. It's already signed. There is nothing there. And everything is good. The prosecutor wants to take that, put it inside the vehicle, falsify the police report, and tell you this whole entire thing where a boyfriend and a girlfriend talks about a situation. There's nothing there. She loves him. He loves her. Happened like a couple of days ago. A conversation about an ex-boyfriend. Why is he in the same complex? There's nothing there. Everything is perfect. The investigator takes that, puts it inside the vehicle. And he wants to say, you told me you had an argument over an ex-boyfriend inside the vehicle. And then you watch the dash camera, you see there is no argument. That Mustafa did everything he can to avoid a vehicle accident. And then you open the Google Nest videos. There's a Google Nest video inside the apartment that shows it's a beautiful relationship. We're going to get into the Google Nest on the next podcast, but I want to finish this portion. And on the next podcast, we're going to dive in the Google Nest video, and we're going to come back to this audio. We're going to dissect this audio. We're going to dissect the supplement report that conveniently Internal Affairs gave the investigator that falsified the police report this audio. And he can get to say, I can't hear the audio. So I'm going to rewrite the supplement, rewrite the report, and say, he told me he was arguing inside the vehicle. Conveniently, he can't hear the audio, so it's the same report. So the prosecutor can continue to say Mustafa told the investigator he was arguing inside the vehicle, even though Mustafa never said that.
But I don't remember like us arguing in the car. I don't remember any of that. I don't remember arguing. We were good. She sent me like some amount to like put gas in the car. So like we were good. And she was, if anything, if she was crying, I would say like maybe like it was getting dark or something. I'm not sure. Like the graveyard closes at a certain time. Like I think they close by like 8 p.m. or something or whatever. It's like, you know, and then they kick you out if like the gate's shut. I'm not sure how the graveyard works. I've only been there one time with her, and like it was at night as well, but I'm not sure if they have like a strict policy or not. I don't know how the gates operate. But
hey, okay. So the dash cam in the car, is that yours?
Yes, sir.
Why do you have a dash cam? Is that for like DoorDash stuff?
Yeah, I DoorDash. Like in case like an accident or anything happens, or like you know anything like
Do
that.
you know how the dash cam works?
I just plug it in and it turns on. Like
Do you know how long the videos are saved for?
I really don't know. I think like maybe 2 days, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you DoorDash last?
DoorDash, let's see. When did I DoorDash? I don't know.
Here's another thing. The prosecutor wants to tell you that Mustafa got in this vehicle, crashed the vehicle on purpose, and she wants to tell you that he killed his family on purpose. Wait a minute, there's a dash camera inside the car. You want to tell me that he did this on purpose in front of his dash camera? The narrative that's coming out of the police department does not add up. And that's why they have to go to falsify the police report. They have to go and mute the audio on the dash camera. They have to cut this dash camera. They have to seal this dash camera from the community. Because when you show the evidence the way they are, it shows that this is a car accident. Mustafa lost his family in a vehicle accident. Every piece of evidence showed this is a car accident. We're going to end the podcast on this note. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you for being here. The next time we come back on this podcast, we're going to dissect this audio. We're going to post the supplement report that Robert Drum conveniently says. This is the supplement report. Robert Drum says he couldn't hear the audio. Conveniently, Internal Affairs gives the audio to the investigator who falsified the police report. And he conveniently rewrites the report and says, I can't hear the audio. Well, this case is a matter of public opinion. And the community is watching this police department cover up for the investigator that falsified the police report. Just so the prosecutor in court can continue to say, Mustafa told the investigator that he was arguing inside the vehicle. And I'm going to end this podcast with a video where at the time, the attorney who we found out was working for the investigator, Casey Stevens, told us what was going to happen. He said, what's the point of complaining? You want to complain against this investigator falsifying the police report? What is that going to do? Your prosecutor is going to cover up for her investigator. She's going to cover up for the cop. Let's listen to this recording.
He's the lead investigator, and then he wrote that Mustafa stated that I argued with her in the vehicle. I think that's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
But for us not to complain and not to bring...
What does a complaint do, though?
we need the prosecutor to be aware that this report is falsified. Whether intentional or not intentional, this report does not reflect what Mustafa said.
And she's aware of it. Because that's what we argued before.
She's aware of it, and
that the recording that was made, y'all's recording, is different.
we're going to complain about, I want to complain about the investigator. If he's been doing it for 30 years, and he's
been doing it for a while.
20, a while, okay, if he's gonna do that to Mustafa, how many other people have you done this to and you got away with it? Okay.
Listen to what he says right here. He says there is no point of complaining because the prosecutor is going to protect her cop. And 2.5 years later, what is going on here? You have a whole entire internal affairs protecting the police officer that falsified the police report. Listen.
So far, as far as I know, she says she heard the recording. Well, if the investigator is not doing, if the prosecutor is not doing anything about it, and no one is doing anything about it, I want to file a formal complaint.
What do you think? I don't believe it's helpful. It's not helpful to Mustafa.
Why?
Because in my experience, it will embolden the prosecutors to support their officer and try to turn this into, well, we just made a mistake. That's all.
Okay, that's okay. Okay.
Is going to embolden the prosecutor to protect her cop. You have Mustafa being charged with murder. When every piece of evidence showed this is a car accident, they brought in individuals that allowed them to manufacture probable cause. I have all the body cams. We're leaking them on the internet. And you can clearly see what this police department is doing in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. They brought in multiple people, called them witnesses, but in fact, on body cams, they say we were not there. We didn't see anything. But they have them manufacture probable cause about Mustafa. They falsified Mustafa's statements. And when you complain, when you actually have evidence, you have a recording of a conversation, they take the conversation, give it to the same investigator that falsified the police report, and have him rewrite the report, say that he couldn't hear the audio. And 2.5 years later, the prosecutor in court repeats, she says, I have an investigator that says Mustafa told him I was arguing inside the vehicle, because internal affairs allowed this investigator to say he could not hear the audio. A dash camera that's cut and muted. 2.5 years later, the prosecutor is terrified to take Mustafa to court, refused to put his evidence on the record and take Mustafa to court, and he sits in a county jail. Ask yourself this question. 2.5 years, and Mustafa still cannot reconstruct a vehicle accident? Is not allowed to bring in an expert to inspect this vehicle? What's so hard about inspecting his vehicle? I'll tell you, the minute they reconstruct Mustafa's vehicle, they allow an independent expert to inspect and reconstruct this vehicle accident, Mustafa's coming home. The minute they download the content off the SD card in Mustafa's dash camera, Mustafa's coming home. They falsified the whole entire case. And now they're terrified because he's got a family on the outside that's fighting for him. They're terrified that the file they hid from the community, the dash camera, the police body cams, the document, is now being leaked on the internet. Thank you for being here. This is not another boring podcast. Judge Carol Weimer, Under the Microscope.
In a cell, no trial, no voice. Truth buried deep, but we ain't got no choice. They tried to erase it, break break them apart. But we scream free Mustafa, from the soul, from the heart. They falsified the paper, twisted every word, turned a car crash to murder, like justice never heard. Dorothy and Empress, angels in the sky. Now they blame a broken man while the real ones lie. A badge and a pen, that's all it took. Signed his fate with a false report and a dirty look.
Wherever the ambulance on the other side.
And again, scream Mustafa, loud through the chains. Justice corrupted, drowning in pain. From the cell block to the street, we'll never stop till the walls fall down and the charges drop. Free Mustafa, it's more than a name, it's a movement, a mission, exposing the game to Trump and Cash. Hear our cry, bring the truth to light, let the innocent fly. Amy Ashworth, playing judge and the jury in a county so dirty, soaked in fury. Police and the courts all in on the plot. They framed an innocent man and left his soul to rot. But his family's out marching, banners held high, while supporters flood timelines, refusing to lie. They want silence, we give them the storm. Truth blazing through like justice reborn. Every post, every chant, every sleepless night is a spark in the dark that's ready to ignite. This ain't just a song, it's a battle cry for every soul locked up while the guilty lie. We free Mustafa, loud through the chains. Justice corrupted, drowning in pain. From the cell block to the street, we'll never stop till the walls fall down and the charges drop. Free Mustafa, it's more than a name, it's a movement, a mission, exposing the game to Trump and Cash. Hear our cry, bring the truth to light, let the innocent fly. 2 years too long, time to rise above. Truth is power when fueled by love. So we'll march, we'll fight, we'll never let go until Mustafa walks free and the whole world knows